Welcome into our overtime segment today. We had a good show today, I think, and hopefully our overtime will be just as good. I want to start digging into your Twitter questions. Unfortunately, we've been sitting here talking about other things, and I don't have them queued up at the moment. They're somewhere in here. Anything that you want to carry over from today's show? Anything you didn't get a chance to finish up on as I struggle to find these notes?
You know, for me, it's just about getting the best players on the field. I mean, I think Jimmy's, take is Kamara needs to get the ball more. If he's got to be a slot player, slot receiver, you get him slot receiver. If you got to get him, wherever you get him on the field. But I think in general, that's been a part of this that I've struggled with this coaching staff for a little while is there's certain players that get on the field and then you see their backup come in and you're like, why hasn't the backup been playing the whole dang time in this game? Why hasn't he been starting the whole season? I think this team, you don't want to see the struggles with the second-string quarterback's always everybody's favorite player, but I do really think it is a time and place that everything's open. You look at everything. You try guys at different positions. You figure out how to get the best guys on the field that can play.
And I think you find out what guys' strengths are and do it over and over and over again. Dobbs can run the ball. There's no reason at all you don't give him more carries. Kamara's special with the ball in his hand. Give him more carries. I mean, I think you look at the season, even though Hurd's rushed for more yards, Kamara's rushed for more yards per carry. And again, you got your punt returns and everything else. Hit those guys. And if you know Preston Williams is your best guy at running slants right now, even though he fumbled one, keep doing it. Like, just keep going into the same wound that you can create with him.
Yep. You got the Georgia Bulldogs coming to town, guys. I wouldn't be getting outside the sideline very much. So these guys are some serious dudes. I think that as a coaching staff, also as players, we're going to have to learn to deviate.
In-game adjustments. That's actually the first tweet I've got here that I dialed up. We talked about that a little in the show. It seems that the adjustments come after this game and before the next game rather than during the game. Now, some of that can be overblown. People act like you throw out a playbook and go to something completely different. It could be just if the other guy brings a blitz, you come up with a way to counteract it. It's not, as Butch Jones has said, it's not throwing your playbook out. So adjustments can be overblown a little bit, but I do think you're seeing a little something here that makes you question whether or not they're coming to these conclusions quick enough.
Oh, and to me, it just feels like a team that doesn't have an identity. That doesn't sit there and say, what are we? Who are we? Are we physical? Are we fast? Are we, it just feels like it's just a mix of a hodgepodge of a lot of different things at times, and that's what makes me feel confused at times about, I couldn't really label this team and say, this is what this team is. This is what I know they are. It just doesn't, I don't know, and that may not make sense, but that's just, I can't point to a lot of things, but I just feel that every time I watch it, it's a mixture. It's not one coherent thing moving down the tracks.
Go ahead, sir.
I was going to build on what Will just said. This team reminds me so much of our '89 team. I talked to Shazan about it before the show. No one knew what we were going to do. I mean, we were unranked, a whole bunch of untried players coming into the game. And me's untried quarterback, hadn't played since my freshman year, broke my leg my sophomore year, come back as a junior. But what we did? We found a way to win. No one said we were a running team, we were a passing team. We had the Cobweb who took all the highlight. Yeah, we had 3 first-round receivers on that team. So when you find a way to win, I'd rather be a winning team versus a passing or running team.
Let me ask you this. This one's making the rounds. You didn't like hearing that something might be leaking out of that locker room, so I'll throw it back out here. I tell you what's all over the town right now, and I've heard it. I heard it a couple weeks ago. It's now leaked out. Matt Crowder, Butch Jones might have gotten physical in practice before the season. That's out there. Now more and more people are saying it. If there's any truth to that, it would have to be coming from inside the program, I would think. My question then is this. Whether that's true or not, I'll let anybody answer here if they think it is true or not. But my issue is this. When you start to lose, I start to worry about the makeup of the locker room. Regardless of who's saying it, stuff's coming from somewhere, either inside the team or near the team. Trainer, manager, who knows? How big of a concern is it? Am I overblowing that? You guys, the former players, is that a concern in the locker room if you got stuff leaking?
I want to jump on that right now. If something's leaking out that locker room, it needs to be dealt with immediately by the players. What happens inside that locker room is not for anybody else. And if it's leaking outside the locker room through other extraneous people connected to the program, i.e. managers and trainers, they need to be dealt with immediately. They need 2 minutes in a circle. Whoever comes out, that's how it happens.
Circle of life for the
That's
man.
how we did it. That's how we did it. Nothing leaked that out.
But I think you're making the point is that needs to be dealt with because it's that bad.
Yes.
I mean, because when that starts happening, that's the beginning. That's the swan song, the beginning of the end. So I mean, you have to deal with this because that is one way to assuredly kill any season by any team.
And I'll say this: if it is true, you know, football is a violent sport, but there's no reason anywhere that coaches should put their hands on players. You can yell, cuss them up and down, whatever you want to say, but when it comes to that point, I think things have went too far.
Yeah. Matt Crowder is a feisty guy. It would not surprise me if someone did put their hands on him if he didn't put hands back. Just guessing. All right. Is it a good thing that Georgia lost last week? You got two minds. Some people say, well, they come in with less confidence. I look at it and say, ooh, they're going to come in mad. Better or worse for Tennessee that Georgia lost to Alabama yesterday?
I'll answer that one. Worse. The Bulldogs are going to be mad when they come in here.
I agree with you, Shazan. You guys, what do you think?
I think this Georgia team knows that they played a Tennessee team last year that took them to the mat. So I don't think they were going to come in light for this game no matter what. I think the only thing you got is if they beat Alabama, they might be so drained and everybody topping them up so bad they might say, well, Tennessee's terrible,
right,
and overlook you. But overall, I think this Georgia team, since they played Tennessee last year and almost got beat, I think they kind of do have an understanding. They're not going to be too overlooking us too much because they're like, these guys have played close with everybody, just hadn't beaten one of them.
I'm a hope that it's a good thing for us on the small percentage that Alabama pointed out so many flaws they can't get all of them fixed this week, and we can get up by 3 touchdowns and just cross our fingers.
It's that third touchdown they're missing.
Hey, think about it, John. We're the best team. We're the fastest team in the country getting to 17.
Yeah. Hey,
we get to 17 faster than anybody.
In terms of game management, I thought Butch had it last night. He elected to receive. Worked out great to start with, then it kind of went south from there. All right, here's one. Somebody's telling us, do not blame the fans like ESPN2 did. ESPN2 pointed out that in the second half, all fans were pretty much out of it. They were done. Wow. Now, here's the thing. You blow 2 leads like you did, I think you've been through this coach after coach after coach. Since 2005, you've been kind of a second-tier football team. You had to come back in 6 and 7, but you know, it's since 2005. It's been a decade now.
Yeah.
So I understand fans sitting there like that at a certain point. But at the same time, as players, does that impact you on the field? Let's put it this way. Watching on TV last night, it was much easier to hear third down for what than it has been, say, Oklahoma, when you couldn't hear Sterling playing anything over there.
I mean, it definitely makes it easier for the offense, the opposing team offense in a home game. I mean, Arkansas, you can pull the home team defense off sides. You know, when the people are going and the crowd's up, they can't pull you off sides. They can't hard count because you can't hear the count. So, I mean, it definitely, it's not are the fans the reason this team lost? No way. But does it add to the increase the strength of the offense and decrease the strength of your defense and being at home when the fans don't cheer on third down? Yes.
Well, 90, I was at the game, and I was one of the last ones to leave. 90% of your fans are there until the very, very end, so they're there with you. And one thing about out there on the field is if you hear or see the fans, you're really not in the game. You're not focused anyway. I mean, it's almost like we're talking like you and I are talking, and I know exactly what you're saying. We got to be focused on one another.
Yes.
Well, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying the overall crowd noise of eliminating you hearing a hard count by an opposing team in your place. I mean, that. I'm not saying that you should be listening to the fans. You want them so loud enough you can't hear the quarterback for Arkansas calling the ball out. I mean, that's the advantage.
A good defender never hears the count. He only sees the ball move.
Did you say that?
Well, let's be real.
Uh-oh,
Did you say that? Can I cavalarize that question, John P? I agree with Will and I agree with Shazan. But the fact of the matter is, the thing I like most about that question, the fans were in their seats. You find another school in the country that fans are in their seats, and if there's one or two, you have 100,000 fans in their seats in the rain cheering for their volunteer.
Hey,
for
let
the
me
football
tell you,
team.
now,
that
granted-
says a lot to me.
Granted, Georgia was down 38-3 at the time. Those fans hit the gates. They were gone. Tennessee fans did not leave. They might not have been as loud, boisterous.
They were
hard
there.
to blame them.
Love
but,
the fans.
but at the same time, they were there. They were there. So, all right. Be interesting to see how many are there for next week in Georgia, and how that smoky gray fires everybody up.
They're coming back, baby.
It's worked in the past. Not. All right. We'll see. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
By the way, I didn't introduce them. That's Will Overstreet, Daniel Hood, Sterling Hinton, Shazan Bradley, if you haven't figured it out by now. Thanks for watching us here on Overtime. Catch us next Sunday morning at 11 a.m. on WATE 6 for the Sports Source. We appreciate you.